Welcome, everybody, to the Black Boss Channel. I am Jeff Lightsy Jr. here, and we have a special guest today, the Olympian, Mr. Ronnie Baker, out of my hometown, Louisville, Kentucky. Ronnie, how's it going, buddy?
Going pretty good, man. It's I'm up early anyway, so I'm preparing for practice later on, so I'm doing pretty good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Ronnie, for those of you who don't know, Ronnie Baker is an Olympian. He is one of the fastest men in the entire world. Let's not mess around with it. He runs easily in the 9.8. He is a track Olympian. He just competed in the Tokyo Olympics this month, and I know that was crazy. We're going to get into Tokyo, the Olympics, and all that. But we're from the same hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. So I have to ask Ronnie about his upbringing, right? Some of the track early. So, Ronnie, what were some of your earliest memories of running on the track? Who were some of the clubs that you might have ran for? And what was that experience like?
Yeah, so growing up in Louisville, I actually started running track when I think it was sixth grade. That's when I started
It's kind of
running.
late.
Yeah, so I didn't run. I didn't run when I was super young. I did run cross country a lot, but I wasn't running cross country. I started cross country when I lived in Alaska, so
Okay.
I didn't really start running track until sixth grade. And it was crazy because when I got to Texas, when I got to TCU, I went to some local track meets and I saw kids that were like literally 5 years old running. And I'm like, what? Like they start this young? Like it's crazy. So yeah, didn't start running track on official track until I was in sixth grade. And I remember actually winning a 100-meter dash in sixth grade. It was at Male. It was at Male High School.
Okay.
I was going to Highland Middle.
Mm-hmm.
I ran my first track meet there in sixth grade, and yeah, I won. So that was kind of that. I ran for Louisville. I believe it was the Weston Track Club or Louisville.
Yeah. West? Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember that.
I can't remember the name exactly, but I ran for them, and I also ran for an AAU team, um, in high school going into college. It was like my or senior year, one of those summers I ran. And so those are really the two AAU programs like outside of school that I ran for. So I remember the West End Louisville track. We used to do a lot of stuff at Central. That's where we used
Yeah.
to practice. And so yeah, those were fun times, man. Those were really fun times. And obviously ran at Ballard High for 4 years.
Yeah. So Ronnie, when was it that you figured, like, did you finally discover, like, man, I'm actually pretty good at this? Like, I'm not just like, most people run track, stay in shape, just to have fun, kick it with their friends. But when did you realize, like, yo, I could get a scholarship, yo, I could be a professional at this? At what level, at what age did you finally realize, like, yo, I'm really good at running track?
I think that I realized I could get honestly, I didn't really think I could get a scholarship while I was in high school.
Wow.
I was running like 47.1 in the 400 meters. I ran 21.3 and like 10.5. But to be honest with you, that wasn't, that was pretty monumental for being in Louisville, Kentucky. But like,
It's crazy.
yeah. But you look at some of the world, you look at the high schoolers and some of the people that I was competing against. A lot of them were running like a lot faster than I was. But also, I really didn't understand track that much in high school. Like, I really wasn't like hip or in tune with like what fast was. So in my mind, I had no idea that like schools would look at me for scholarships until TCU had reached out to my mom and asked if I would come on a visit. So that's honestly, until then, I didn't really even think about going, like having scholarship money and going to college for track and field until then. So I think that I knew I was good in my junior year when I started to run like 10 seconds, because that was like a huge barrier in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
And so when I finally broke that barrier and I broke the 50-second barrier in the 400-meter dash, like when I started to do that, I was like, okay, I know I'm good, but I didn't really know I was able to run at that next level until colleges actually started approaching us about it. And so that's kind of that. And then obviously getting into college when I was at TCU, I didn't really think would be a pro athlete until probably my junior year. That's when I really started to believe that I could run at the next level.
Now, once again, we're talking to Ronnie Baker, the Olympian. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Now, you talked about, breaking some of those barriers. I mean, you saying those times like, yeah, I was running 10.5 in high school. Like, it just, like, that's not normal, right? Especially like where we come from, somebody
Right.
that has like a little track background. But what like the coaches, were you into track those early years of high school, or was TCU, U of L, UK, they didn't reach out first? It was kind of TCU all the way in Texas that reached out to the Baker family?
Well, the crazy thing is that I had told I don't know if Louisville or Kentucky had heard about me. I'm pretty sure they did, but I'm saying like I think I had told my coach early on that I didn't want to stay in the city.
Okay.
And that wasn't anything personal against Louisville. I love my city. I love, where I grew up. It's just that I wanted to get away.
Okay.
And so that was one thing that I knew, like, hey, I can go somewhere else, experience life somewhere else. And, my family and everything, they're all going to be here. They're still there. Like,
Yeah.
I know where they are. They ain't going anywhere. So, yeah, I don't know if they had picked up on that, and that's why they didn't really reach out to me early on in the recruiting process, or they just had other people they were like looking at. I don't know. I really don't know. I actually had gotten a call from U of L after I'd went on my first, actually probably my first or second visit. My first visit was TCU, and I had gotten a call in December. I think I went to see TCU maybe in like July or August or something. I don't even know when the recruiting period. It was a very early recruiting period.
Yeah.
And then I think I got a call in like December from Louisville, and I had basically told them like, "Hey, I already made my decision." That was so I didn't even have a chance to really talk to them, and maybe it was just because they knew that I didn't want to stay in the city.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they were going through some coaching changes with people not reaching out. I don't know how I didn't get on a visit there. I don't
know it either. It baffles me. Hearing you tell that story about, I'm like, especially as a Cards fan, man, whether it's track, football, whatever. It's like, how did we have I mean, let's be honest, Ronnie. I know you're humble, ever, but you're the greatest sprinter to come out of our city, right? Like you are literally one of the best athletes. Now I'm gonna give Ali top spot, right? But you're right up there, probably top 10 or so to come out of our city and to not even get a visit to the local school.
I
dropped the ball on that one.
I also think that my coach actually had ties to UK, so he actually was an assistant coach at UK for a number of years. And so I think that's how he got in touch with me, and he just was looking at kids in the area because he had coached there before, so he had some ties there. And then my mom, actually, crazy story. My mom actually went to WKU for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And before she had me, I was the first of 3. And so she went there for 2 years. She actually ended up going there. She didn't want to go to school there. She actually wanted to go to the Air Force. My grandmother just said, hey, you need to go to school. So she went there for 2 years, met who I call my aunt now, Stania Taylor, and her brother, Avery Taylor. Really, they're lifelong friends now, still friends today. But crazy enough, after my mom left WKU after 2 years, didn't finish, she had me 18 years later. We're talking about obviously college. Avery Taylor knows the recruiting coach at TCU and gives a call to him about what I'm doing in track and field in high school. And that's how the connection got me from Louisville to TCU.
Wow. That's crazy. That is wild, like how that a friendship for 20-year friendship ends up landing TCU, one of the greatest sprinters in their school history, right? Like, so shout out to Avery Taylor. I know TCU's pretty happy to have that connection for sure. So you talked about TCU. Let's fast forward a little bit to just competing as a professional, right? Like you're a professional sprinter at this point. When was it? Like, just take me to the Olympic trials this year. How was it? What were you thinking? Like, what before you race in the finals for a spot in the Olympics, right? So you're at the trials. Just what was that like? What was your mindset before the race, and then the feeling you had after the race, knowing that you were going to Tokyo?
Man, I went into the Olympic trials one for the first time, as healthy as I possibly could, which is great. Some of the best shape that I ever was, or I feel like now, best shape I've ever been in. So I'm trying to think. I was really confident. I was confident going in. Like I knew I was gonna be on that team. Like for me, it wasn't a thing of like, oh, maybe I will, maybe I won't. I knew I was, and so for me, I think the biggest thing before, I guess, the finals and like all the preparation and getting to that meet and that event, I definitely was. It was nerve wracking. I think, even though I was super confident about it, it's like the biggest track meet of the year, and with that, if you don't make that team, obviously you're not going to be representing Team USA. Like we all train and compete honestly to be able to peak at this meet so that we can
Yeah.
go to the Olympics, the World Championships, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's a lot of pressure around it,
Yeah.
because a lot of people are honestly banking on, if they don't make this team, they're going to take hits in their contract. They're going to take hits in, the money that
Wow.
they're making, depending on who they're with, depending on what their contract stipulations are. It's going to affect their world rankings. Like there's so much that rides on it, that it's an emotional, roller coaster. Like talking about being at the height of your emotions, like this is the meat.
I bet.
And so for me, it was honestly, there was a lot of emotions. There's a lot of, I guess, pressure to be able to make that team, especially because people had already deemed me as one of the top three.
Mm-hmm.
And although, I was very confident. I knew, honestly, that I was going to make it. Like, I was in my life, and I finally got to one of these events, these trials events, healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very confident, but there still was that pressure and that emotion that came with it. But I got through it. I think that pressure, it either crushes people or it makes diamonds. And so
Absolutely.
I've been able to handle that pressure very, very well in my career.
Now, well, continue. What would you say?
Yeah, I was gonna say that really you asked about afterwards, like how did it feel afterwards?
Yeah.
And I think that for me, because it was such an emotional weekend, I was just relieved. Like I didn't even I wasn't super overjoyed. I was like, dang man, I made it. Like it wasn't even I wasn't even super elated or happy or excited about it. I was inwardly, but I don't even think I could show it because emotionally I was just so drained from the whole thing. So it was more of dang, I finally got that monkey off my back. Like we can relax now a little bit. So
Hey, that's awesome, man. Well, I mean, somebody watching from home, obviously you didn't have any idea, but I was happy for you. To me, it was maybe I felt the emotion for you because I was like, man, he did it. You know what I mean? I will ask you this though, with the COVID break, do you believe that kind of helped you get into better shape, better health, having that year? Because we know the Olympics was supposed to be in 2020, but having it in 2021, did that play kind of into your benefit?
I think I was ready to go in 2020.
Okay.
I was healthy and I was running really well and I was training really well. So honestly, I would have been ready to go in 2020 or 2021. So for me, I don't think the COVID year. I think the COVID year was good because it allowed me to not from a physical standpoint get better, but from a mental and spiritual standpoint get better.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest place that COVID helped me was getting mentally and spiritually where I needed to be able to compete at a high level, and be on the Olympic stage. And so, but physically, I was ready. I don't think that necessarily helped me. I didn't need that extra year. Physically, I would have been ready. I think mentally and spiritually, though, was just on another level when it comes to just all areas of life, not just athletics, but just being a better man, a better athlete, a better husband, things like that. Those were the things that the COVID year helped me work on.
Absolutely. Once again, we're talking to Ronnie Baker, the Olympian. He runs the 100-meter dash and on several relay teams for Team USA. As you see, he's got his jacket on. He's representing. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. So, Ronnie, let's talk about the Olympics. It was different in all aspects, every way, every shape, every form. Just talk to me about some of those protocols that you guys had to go through. I know there was a lot of social distancing, a lot of masking up, a lot of borders, everything. Just what was Tokyo like in your eyes?
Yeah, I really enjoy Japanese food, and that was the one thing that I did not get to enjoy while I was there. We did have a full on cafeteria that we got to eat at every day. It was 2 levels. It was that place was huge, 8,000. I don't even know how many square feet it was. It was huge. It was massive. because you have to have the ability to have like, there's 10,000 athletes there, and obviously everybody's got to eat. So there's food from all over. I did get to try some Japanese, cuisine, but trying to get into, the hole in the walls in Japan, those places, I didn't get to go to those
It was
places.
over.
But when we got there, we first of all, we had to be in a mask pretty much our entire time there. Outside of when we were competing or warming up or practicing, we were in a mask. And that's just because obviously they believe that it protects everyone from getting COVID, all this stuff. So we were in a mask 24/7. When we got there, from the day, first of all, before we even got to Tokyo, we had to take a series of COVID tests. So 96 hours before we got into Japan, we had to take a COVID test here in the States. We had to submit it on an app to doctors, I believe, in Japan for them to verify it, and then for them to send it back so that we can get through the airport and customs and all that stuff. So we had to take one 96 hours before and then another one 72 hours before. Have all these apps registered. I mean, we were being tracked in Tokyo, close contacts. I mean, it was everything. So when we got there, we're in a mask 24/7. We had to take a COVID spit test every single morning. Like first thing when you wake up, you can't eat or drink or brush your teeth before you do it. So it's like, immediately wake up, you're taking a COVID test. And then from there, we were kind of just locked down we couldn't leave the village. So we were basically in the villages. If you don't know what the village is, it's basically Japan, when they're building all the stadiums and stuff, obviously 4 years ago, they build almost like a city. It's literally like a city of just athletes, where there's literally all these buildings and structures and transportation inside of this gated area in the middle of Japan. And we stayed there and had food and pretty much everything we needed there. You didn't really need to leave if you didn't want to. But we were kind of locked down there, and we left for training. We left for competing, and that's really it. So unless you were doing any of those two things, you were pretty much in your room, or you could walk around the village a little bit, but you had to have a mask on. They had some shops in the village, and like they had a hair salon and a nail salon. You get your nails done, all that stuff for the women, and like it was pretty cool. But other than that, you were confined that area.
Man, so what were you able to have any family or friends come to Tokyo at all, or just what was that like?
Yeah, so all my
wife, I know you have a wife, like it
yeah, none of that. So no family, no friends, nobody was traveling there. Like you had to be an athlete to even probably get in the country at that point. So
oh my God.
yeah, there was nobody there. We got to the stadium, it was empty. It was very different. And I don't even think that really affected me. Honestly, like, to be honest with you, like the stadium being empty it wasn't even a factor. It didn't even bother me. Like I didn't even think about it. I don't think any of the other athletes thought about it either. I mean, you saw multiple. I mean, at this Olympics alone, there were 17 world records that were broken across all sports. So I don't think it affected anyone at all. I think it was that people knew about it, but it wasn't like, oh, this is going to affect my performance. So, yeah, no family, no friends. My family, my wife and my mom actually got to go to Orlando. They had a big watch party there. So,
okay,
they were there having fun. They basically got to go to the resort for free. So that was nice. They were in Orlando living it up. But then obviously you had watch parties all over Louisville and too. So, yeah, sadly no. But hopefully this next one, there's going to be, we can have our family and friends there.
Hopefully, man. Hopefully we get through this COVID stuff, A-okay. Once again, I'm talking to Ronnie Baker, the Olympian from Team USA, from my home city of Louisville, Kentucky. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Now, Ronnie, I'm going to ask you about your performance. Just how do you feel you did? Just what were your emotions after the races? Just kind of talk to me about some of those that took place during the Tokyo Olympics.
Yeah. Overall, man, this has been one that I've really been struggling with because as a person, as who I am, like I think that with all the things that I've accomplished over I've been sprinting professionally for 5 years. and I've accomplished a lot. And if you look at it, you look at the body of work, it's really good. I got a bronze medal in 2018 in the Indoor World Championships. I ran 6:40, which is the third fastest time ever in the 60. I won the
60
indoor.
times are crazy, by the way.
Yeah.
All of them are crazy.
Right. I've done that. I've run 983. I mean, this past Olympics, I was the third fastest ever American in the 100 meters at the Olympics in history. I have the ninth fastest time in Olympic history ever. And then four of those 5 times are like obviously Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt, yeah.
From that standpoint, it looks great. I'm an Olympian. From that standpoint, it looks great. From the world's view, I am accomplished. I've made it. This is everything.
Yeah.
For my standards and expectations, I feel like I haven't done much. And that could be very offensive to people because they're like, man, like you're mad ungrateful. Like you did all that and you're not happy. And the thing is that I train hard not so that I can have those accolades. I train hard so I could be a champion. And looking back at this Olympics, that didn't happen. So for me, with everything that was lined up and everything that was in place, I feel like this year I was, again, most healthy. There was no really excuses for why I wouldn't perform to the best of my abilities or even win the Olympics. So for me, now I have to go back to the drawing board and say, what is it that we need to fix in order to be able to be on the top of that podium? And so overall, the experience was great. I'm not downplaying the experience. I'm not downplaying, I'm not ungrateful for it. It was a blessing, to be able to travel, have it, be able to compete at a high level against the best in the world is unbelievable and something that most people, again, will never get to accomplish and never reach that level. So not that I'm ungrateful. It's just that I feel like there's a level that I know I can be at, and I feel like I underachieved. And when you are in that position multiple times over multiple years, it's hard to be like, yeah, like I'm winning, like I'm doing it, like because I know that I'm not where I know I can be, and it's not necessarily let me compare to everyone else. It's like, dang. As where I think I know I can be, I haven't achieved that. And year after year after year, I keep falling short. So that's why I'm like looking at it as a whole. It was a great experience. I did a lot of cool stuff. And honestly, like my name's going to be in the Olympian, like Ronnie's Olympian record book kind of thing. And that can't be etched out. But also for me, I just know that I have more. I just know I have more. So that's the hard part. Looking at it, the races were great. I ran a personal best in my semifinal. I just think that I need to be able to come back, and there is a level that I need to be able to train at to be able to do that at the next time. So for me, I think I had high expectations, and I always will. And I believe that in anything in life, you should have high expectations. Like if you're going to do something, you should try to do it to the best of your ability and be the best. And so that's always been my mindset. And so when you don't achieve that, it's a tough one. You got to figure out how to fix that. And so overall, the first 2 races, absolutely great. Ran my personal best. The last one, there's some things that I don't know if I would have changed anything. I gave the best I could. I did the best I could. But I just felt like, honestly, I knew mentally I was like, I'm going to win this thing. And it didn't happen. And then the relay was just hard as well because we didn't make the final. We didn't have a whole lot of time to practice. There's just a lot of things that went into it that just honestly we should have made it. That's the thing. And so that I think that was our expectation. And then when it didn't happen, it's so defeating sometimes. And so overall, again, wrap it up. Great experience. Olympian. Accomplished a lot of cool stuff. I'm the 6th fastest guy ever in the U.S. Thank God.
It's crazy.
Yes.
It's crazy to think about, man. Like the 6th fastest time ever in U.S. history. Like that's just like insane to think about. But I mean, even though you, like you said, you feel like you didn't put up the performance that you would have expected, because you have great expectations for yourself. And I can't do anything but commend that, right? Like, and trust me, this is not the last or the best we've seen of Ronnie Baker. I know that you have levels that you're going to accomplish that's like just even way better. You're going to look back on these times, 3 years from now at the next Olympics and be like, man, that was garbage, right? Like you're going to be going crazy. But what I do want to ask you about is Team USA as a whole. Just how are you? Are you guys like? Are you guys like friends on the track team? How do you, when you say doing practice a lot for those 4x1 teams? But how is your relationship with some of those other Olympians on Team USA?
I think it's different when we come together as a team. Obviously, when we're having to compete together,
Exactly.
like on a big stage, it's a lot different. I think that for me, I'll be honest, I've always had the notion that when we're competing against each other, honestly, we're not friends. Like I love you, but we're not friends. I'm trying to win, you're trying to win. I'm not. It's not gonna happen. We're not friends. Outside of that, I'd love to hang out.
Mhm.
Whatever, we can be friends. We can talk business. We can whatever you want to do. Like I'm cool with that outside the track, and I'm not the kind of person that takes my grudges, or not grudges, but like takes my competitive
Yes.
mindset of like, hey, we're not friends here, and puts it outside of the track. Like I'm not gonna snub a guy because I see him like down the street, in Dallas somewhere. Like I'm gonna say what's up to him.
Yeah.
And we can be friends. But while we're competing, it's a lot different. It's just that competitive nature, right? And so I think when we got to be in the Olympic team, we kind of got to share a lot of that experience, but also have to work together. It's a lot different. It's completely
Mhm.
different. So I'd say that it's not as like my friendship to a lot of them is not as strong. One, because like we don't live in the same areas, we don't train
Yeah.
together. Like I don't train. I train with one other guy, and so a lot of the guys that I was running with at this Olympics, like I don't see them or train with them. The only time I see them is at competitions.
Yeah.
So the mindset I was just talking about is only implemented when I see them. So
Yeah.
um, I don't really get to talk with them, hang out with them, kick it with them, and I think that a lot of those athletes they train. Sometimes they train with the people that they're competing with, so they're more cordial with them. Like
Yes.
they can be like I know, for instance, that one of the guys that was on the USA team, he trains with Andre DeGrasse, who's a runner in
Mhm.
Canada. And so, like, although they compete against each other, they train together, so they're cool. They hang out. Like,
Yes.
they can go to the cafeteria and like hang out and chat and wrap it up, like you talk it up before they compete or whatever, and like give each other daps and like encouragement. I didn't have someone like that like while I was there. So I think that that's kind of the mindset. I'm definitely willing to be friends with them and hang out with them and like collaborate and do all kinds of stuff. It's just not something that we get to do often, just because we don't live in the same areas. We don't see each other. So,
Yeah.
um,
Once again, we're talking to Ronnie Baker of the Olympian Ronnie Baker of Team USA, the 100-meter dash. You said the sixth fastest time in
US
history.
history.
That's just crazy to think about. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Now, Ronnie, I know a lot of people believe like track athletes, whether it's yourself, Usain Bolt, Justin Gatlin, Tyson Gay, it's like God given, right? But you guys train, like have a really tough training regimen. You've had some serious injuries. Just talk to our audience about like what is a training day like to become an Olympian for Ronnie Baker.
Man, yeah, you definitely have to train. There's no shortcut to it. And I think that that's one thing that most people don't understand is like, yes, to an extent, it's a God given ability. Like I was running fast in high school, but I wasn't running like some of the. There's a lot of times here in Texas that I don't even think I would have made it to the regional meet in Texas in high school because kids run way faster. And so there is a level of there's training. You just have to train. There's no shortcut for it. There's no recovery mechanisms. There's no, you have to be out there putting in work. And so for me, like a typical week, especially like in the fall training, which is usually the longer stuff, harder stuff. I'll just tell you like one of the harder workouts is like 300 meters times 3. So 300 meters is 400 meters is one lap around the track. 300 meters is obviously 3/4 of it. Running 300 meters, getting about 3 to 5 minutes rest, and doing it again. Getting another 3 to 5 minutes rest, doing it again. Like that's one of the harder workouts. And then we also have like one where we do a 500, a 300, a 200, and then 3 100s after it. Obviously, the rest is very, very short because you're trying to get your body back in shape, kind of get your cardiovascular system ready, like all that stuff. So, yeah, like those are like typical workouts. But there's no. I tell everyone, and I'll continue to tell everyone, whatever you want to do as far as like your physical, you want to get your body like in shape, like where you see these top level athletes and stuff putting, going out and performing, whether it's in track and field, whether it's in basketball, whatever, like they're putting in, that they're dedicating a lot of their time in their life to making sure that their bodies are in peak shape. So you can't go out there one day, give it your all, like get exhausted and then take 3 days off. Like it's every day kind of thing. It's a lifestyle. So, and that's just with anything. If you're trying to just get your beach body, like you're gonna have to commit. Like you're not gonna just have a waltz in the park way.
Yeah.
It's not possible. So it's not possible, especially if you want to run the 9.8s, you want to run the top times in the world, you want to be on the podium. You gotta be putting your body through a lot.
Man, what are some of the injuries you've had to overcome since your track journey started? Because you said this is the best shape you felt, but what are some of those injuries you had to overcome?
Man, I've been dealing with injuries really since I've in college. I dealt with some, and really in 2016 is kind of when that started. So 2016, I had a hamstring injury in college. I was still running at TCU, but I ended up going to the Olympic trials that year. And I got to the semifinal. I got put out in the semifinal, but I had a hamstring injury that I was dealing with pretty much that entire year. So I had a hamstring injury in 16. In 17, I had another hamstring injury. I don't remember if it was the same one or if it was the opposite one, but I remember being at the World Championship trials, and I strained my hamstring in the first round, like around 80 meters, finishing up, just about to cruise through the line. I still won the race and strained my hamstring. So then I came back the next day, tried to run, and just couldn't get to where I needed to be. So strained my hamstring in 2016, 2017. Had a healthy year in 2018, which was good. And then 2019, I strained my hamstring in February, but also then I had an adductor injury where I was dealing with inflammation in my bone, like where my pelvis is in the front. There was inflammation in the bone. So basically, my adductor, it's an inner thigh muscle, it's connected to your pelvis. When that was being stretched, it was causing tension on the bone, which is causing inflammation in there. So when you have injuries with bone, there's not really much you can do. You can't like go get a massage and treat that, because bones are just different. They heal differently.
Yeah.
So I was dealing with that pretty much all year, and I still ended up getting fifth in the grand scheme of the trials in 2019. Obviously, didn't make the team there. So those are really the big ones. A lot of hamstring stuff, and then obviously 2019 was a bigger issue because it was something we had never dealt with before. But those are really the ones that I've had personally. And you do get a lot of lower body injuries, and a lot of it comes it's like a lot of hamstring stuff, especially when you're sprinting. So.
Yeah. Well, once again, we're talking to Ronnie Baker, Olympian Ronnie Baker. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Now, Ronnie, I have to ask you, so now the Olympics is over and the next one isn't for another 3 years. What's next for Ronnie Baker? What are some of the events that you have next? What are some of the, when you're not racing, what are some of the things that you do as far as, whether it's to have fun, to kind of relax, chill with your wife? What are some of those things as well?
Yeah, I plan on honestly taking a vacation at some point. We went on a little staycation to Dallas just because we didn't have a whole lot of time. I actually had to get back on the track and training, but I have a track meet, the Prefontaine Classic next week. It'll be on NBC on Saturday, so I'll be running there. And then I've got the Diamond League final in September, on September 9th. That'll be in like Zurich, Switzerland. So I'll have to fly over there.
Wow.
But then after that, that's kind of the end of my season. And I actually have a business that I'm working on, that I have been working on actually for the last 2 years. It's in the network marketing space. So I work with a lot of different people, just helping them honestly create income outside of their full-time careers.
Okay.
One, because in my full-time career as a track and field athlete, I do have a lot of spare time. Like I'm not training 8 hours a day. So I take that unproductive time that I probably would be using watching Netflix or YouTube. I take that and honestly, I'm building an asset for my future. So in the next 5 to 6 years, maybe when I finish track and field, I have an income that I'm going to be able to fall back onto, and also be full-time in business. And it's something where I can create a residual income to where I'm not having to go put in like going to clock into work every single day. So I'll be my own business owner, and really the whole goal of that is to help other people do the same thing. And so I've been working on that. That's something that's really big on my radar because I just don't want to work until I'm 65.
Absolutely.
So I'm willing to put in the work now in my 20s and 30s, so that I can live the next 40, 50 years of my life the way I want to. So that's really just business. It's a lot to do with online e-commerce and marketing. So really getting into that space is kind of what I'm going to be doing in the off season. But honestly, my off season isn't very long. So I just, while I'm training, I'm able to do that, which is great because it's a part-time gig that can yield a full-time income. But yeah, I'm going to try to do a vacation at some point. I've got to, once I finish track and field in September this year, just go over, like I'm sitting down with my coach going over what we can do to improve. And then honestly, shoot, back in like mid-October, I'll probably be back on the track. So not a whole lot of time, but we'll try to squeeze something in that's fun before then.
No, that's awesome. But I really want to touch on something that you said, though. I really love that you've thought about your life in your career after track, right? Because track, I mean, to be honest, is a young man's sport. Like you have your peak, you're in your peak right now, but peaking track ain't like peaking like baseball, right?
Yeah.
Or peaking like track and football and things like that. Those are like young men's sports. Basketball, they're starting to stretch it out a little longer, but like track is something like at some point, you're the fastest right now. You're taking the throne from guys like the Tyson Gays and the Justin Gatlins and stuff. But at some point, there will be a guy that's faster than Ronnie Baker. And so I love that you've thought about a business plan after your track career is over. Which is, when do you think you started thinking about like life after track?
I started thinking about that in 2019 because I realized that when I started running professionally in 2017, I was now hindsight, I look at this. A lot of our generation, I'm 27, I'll be 28 this year. A lot of our generation, they're just wasting their life away. And I realized that in 2017, 2017 when I first started track and field to honestly really 2019, I was kind of just, I would go to practice, I would come home, and I would play video games all day. I watch TV. I do the typical like, hey, I just got off work, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna relax kind of thing. And I was doing that for years, and I realized now, hindsight, that I'm in a business where I'm building my future. I realized that I was wasting time, and I just realized I need to do something about that. I need to be able to build something that I can pass down to the next generation, because I can win a gold medal, but I can't pass that gold medal down to my kids.
Yes.
Like that gold, me giving them that gold medal doesn't give them opportunities to be successful. It's just it's something that I've accomplished, but they haven't done. They have to start at the ground level too.
Yes.
Just like if you ascend to the CEO level of your company, after you've climbed the ranks, when you leave, you can't put your son in that position. The guy that's the next guy, he's going to step up. You can't say, "Oh, son, I've climbed the ladder. Now you get to be CEO." It doesn't work. So I realized I need to be able to develop my own business so that I can be in control of it, so that I can be able to pass something down to my kids. And I realized from 2017 to 2019, I was not doing much of anything. So for the people out there that are my age, or honestly, even if you're older, if you're wasting your time in frivolous things like Netflix and video games and YouTube and things that are just taking your mind. They're not helping you do anything. They're not helping you create income. They're allowing you to be lazy. And a lot of the times it's what that is. It's kind of like that instant gratification, because with those things are pleasurable. And
Mhm.
you have to understand that the people that are multimillionaires, the great people in life, the people that like your Michael Jordans, your Kobe Bryants, your Warren Buffett's, your Eric Thomas. I love Eric Thomas, ET.
AT.
Those guys, they are sacrificing those things early for a short period of time in their life, so that they can get to where they can live with those things in the long term. Like
Mm.
for me, I'm willing to sacrifice some of those things for the next 5 to 6 years, build a business and an asset that's going to pay me more than track and field could ever pay me in my lifetime, so that after those 6 years, after those 7 years, after those 8 years of sacrifice, I can go back to those things and truly enjoy them, because I've
Yes.
already done what I need to do on front end. So I started thinking about that in 2019, because I realized I was wasting a lot of my time not doing anything. And also I had injuries, and injuries in track and field means less money. And
Mm.
less money means that you're looking for other opportunities. And that's when I came upon, okay, I need to do something outside with my free time, especially because I have so much of it. So yeah, that was when I finally started to think about that stuff. And I think a lot of people should be doing that too.
Absolutely, man. I mean, that's something we preach on this platform all the time, right? Like how to build wealth building, things like that. It's going to come from outside of your 9 to 5, or even if, whether you're a professional athlete or if you're just, a local factory worker. It's something that you need to have multiple streams of income. And that way you are able to pass down. That way your children will have a better, upbringing than you had, right? Like, so I'm
Yeah.
sure you put yourself in a position that like your kids, your family will be able to, benefit from the accomplishments that you have, whether it's on the track or in the business, more so than maybe you had, growing up. And that's the whole purpose, especially as a Black community. It's definitely critical for those things to take place. Ronnie, that was awesome, man. Like that was really like definitely the fact that you've thought about that as a professional athlete. And we see a lot of professional athletes who make a ton of money or do whatever and just go out and blow it, and then they end up broke as soon as they're done, whether it's running, shooting a hoop, throwing a touchdown. Like as soon as that's over, we hear these tragic stories about them running through all their money because they didn't have a mindset of being prepared after the game or the sport. All the lights were off, the sport was over. So to hear that you're on that track is awesome, man, for
Yeah,
real.
absolutely. And I would say that, especially because I'm trying to actually expand my business into Louisville. Been pretty difficult, but really it's about partnership. So a lot of if there's anybody out there that's listening to this podcast that one would be interested in an opportunity where they can create an asset that's going to, that will help them create income outside of their full-time job. Personally, me and my wife we run our own business. We own our own business, and we're looking for people to partner with. Now, that doesn't mean everybody.
Yeah.
There's spots, like we have a certain amount of spots that we're trying to fill. So that there's a strenuous process of like interviews and making sure that it's the right fit. But if you have those ambitions and you have some free time and you are wanting to be able to honestly create something like legacy, like not just hey, I'm trying to make a couple extra $100, but like we're talking about legacy. That's what we're talking about. And you have some dedication and you're willing to put in some work, like let me know. Facebook, Instagram, all those things. So
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, we're talking to Ronnie Baker, the Olympian. Ronnie, I'll get you out on this, man. You talked about, your plan for the future, your plans and all these things, a lot of your accomplishments that are just crazy. Just, for you to, before you hang it up in track, just tell me some of the things or some of the goals that you have for yourself on the track and field. That way, by the time you hang it up, you can say, I accomplished everything. What are some of those accomplishments you still hope to make happen before it's all said and done for Ronnie Baker on the track?
Honestly, I guess I've never personally voiced this. Like I have, but not directly,
Okay.
But I definitely I want to run the world record. I want to, obviously, if I do that, I'll be the fastest American ever. I want to be on top of the podium. in 2024. And also the other subsequent years. So we've got world championships next year. We've got world championships, and then Olympics, and then also another world. So I want to win. I want to win multiple gold medals. Like that's the goal, is to be a champion. Also to have, while I'm running, be number one ranked in the world, have the fastest time of the year. So those are some of the goals. I think that it would be. I just don't know. There's some people that go into their sport and they're like, my goal is to just be an Olympian. Great. Yeah. Perfect. That's not my goal. And I think that I've realized over the years that I'm just different. Like, cause there's some people that got to the Olympics and they're just like, I know I'm not going to win.
Hey,
I'm good. Like I've done it, but I just, with everything in me, that's just not who I am. I don't know. I don't relate to that kind of person. I just don't. I don't understand their thinking. So, and I'm not gonna try to. But you ask Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan didn't win his first championship until it's like his 7th year in the league, right? And so, there's a lot of people that would look at Michael Jordan and say, "Man, you're leading the league in scoring. Like, you're literally the best basketball player in the world. Like, that's an accomplishment. That's good. I mean, you should be happy." But Michael Jordan's like, "I'm losing. Like, I'm not where I want to be." And so, I think that's kind of where I'm at. Is like, those are my goals, and I'm gonna shoot as high as possible, because why not? If I've been gifted with it, if I have this gift that God's given me, why would I shoot just below where I believe I can be? So I believe that those are my goals, because I feel like God's written those on. Like, He's given me that competitive mentality. He's given me that mentality to be the best. So why would I like not try to shoot for the records, the American records, the championships, the being the best? So. And the thing is, it's not necessarily me being a comparison thing. I personally know, for me, that I can be the best.
Yeah.
So it's about me getting better. And right now, I don't feel like I'm at my best. So those are my goals when it's all said and done. The thing is, I'm going to go for broke trying to get them. And if I don't get them, then I can say, guess what? It wasn't God's plan, because I went hard. I did all I could. And I can be okay with being like, dang, okay, that wasn't in God's plan for me to do that, right? But I did give it my all. I gave it my everything. And so those are my goals, man. Those are my goals. If I had to put them out there, that's it. Running the fastest, being the fastest ever. That's it. So.
Hey, and I'm gonna be rooting for you, man. I know you're gonna be able to accomplish it. World Championships, Olympics, we're coming for gold medal. Ronnie Baker, he'll be at the top of the podium. We're trying to speak it into existence. You're working for it. I'm speaking on it. So hey, it's gonna take place. Thank you so much, man, for joining me today. I know it's early. I know you got some stuff you got to do, but I appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day to make this happen. Once again, this is the Olympian, Louisville native, Ronnie Baker. He's got some races and he's got some goals to accomplish. So thank you all for joining us. Once again, this is Jeff Lightsy Jr. with the Black Boss Channel. I appreciate you all, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.